The great thing about a heavy metal show, if you've never been to a heavy metal show before, this is a great opportunity because I think people are afraid of heavy metal, and they shouldn't be because it really is a lot more inclusive than you think it would be. And all you have to do to join the club is to buy a ticket, and you're just in the club, and it's that cool. And if you show up at any show from, Metallica to Slayer to Anthrax to Black Sabbath to whatever it is, you're in the club. If you show up, you're in the club.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Korey is here, and I'm here again on a very special day. It's always a great day when I get to talk to someone whose work I admire very much, and when I say that, I sincerely mean it, and I very much mean it today with that guest here, Brendon Small, musician, comedian, director, metal legend, as some people call him now. He is the creator of the Adult Swim show Metalocalypse and the band Dethklok, amongst many other things. Thank you for being here, Brendon. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, congratulations on a lot of things that are going on for you. You have the Metalocalypse movie that is out right now. I believe it's out right now on digital and home video. Metalocalypse, the Army of Doomstar. Also, Dethklok, the band in the show and in the movie, but also the band in real life, which features you. You'll be kicking off your tour in August. I think August 30th, right here in Texas. I'm in Austin. You'll be kicking it off in Houston.
Yeah, that's right. We're going out on tour with Baby Metal, and we're in rehearsals right now.
Nice, very nice. So just to jump into the interview right here and into the questions. So Metalocalypse surprised me when it came out on Adult Swim. It's because it's so different from another character that you did on another show that I actually love very much, and that is Home Movies. Home Movies is one of the first shows on Adult Swim back in 1999. Adult Swim being the more adult-oriented block of Cartoon Network. It was about a little boy who made amateur home movies in shorts with his two friends. So when again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the way you got discovered for doing home movies, you weren't doing music at the time. You were doing comedy. Am I correct?
Yeah, I graduated from Berklee College of Music in Boston, and I'd studied there for 4 years. And while I was studying there and I was getting closer to graduating, I was starting to get frightened because I didn't know what I was going to do with music, because nobody's looking for a guitar player, not really. So while I was still at music school, I started studying comedy writing. I had a professor named Mike, and I started writing, and I started getting that got me on stage. That got me doing stand-up and sketch comedy at the comedy studio in Harvard Square. It's opening back up again very soon at a different location, but myself on stage, I was a very nervous person, and I needed to kind of learn how to acclimate on stage. So so I started doing stand-up. I threw myself right in.
Nice. So you started doing stand-up at the time. You have so much emphasis on music. Like you said, you went to school for music. Were you putting as much effort into comedy as you were music at the time?
Yeah, it's funny. When I was a teenager, when I was 14, I made a friend who was a really important friend who taught me about heavy metal and taught me about guitar, and so I took guitar very, very seriously. It was more seriously than my schoolwork, more seriously than anything else. But while I was doing that, I was also writing a lot for myself. I discovered journaling, writing short stories, some stuff just for myself. So I was taking writing, I was doing it, whether or not I knew I needed to be doing it, and then when I decided to kind of like make a shift from music to comedy, I decided to take all the work I had done with guitar and all the kind of practicing and apply it to writing. Like everything, because I figure if you can figure out the guitar, I think you can figure out anything. Because guitar's not easy. But if you can make peace with it, it's a battle against you versus yourself. And there's a really good reason why something doesn't sound right. You just have to sort it out. You have to get your hands working, your brain working together. And I thought that's kind of similar to writing. Plus, there are so many similarities in writing music and writing story. There's even, I remember studying classical music, traditional harmony, where they would talk about an expository statement, meaning like the first melody. And then the rest of this piece of music has to relate to that melody. Sometimes it's the inversion, the retrograde, and then ultimately it kind of palindromes back to that melody in some cases. And I felt that that was something that really made sense as a writer for scripts. I was watching a lot of Seinfeld at the time. Home Movies has, whether or not it wanted to, has a lot of Seinfeld reference inside of it. And but these kinds of palindromes and sneaking in kind of little artifacts that will come back and affect the story later on was something I learned from that. But yeah, it was all kind of parallel to learning more about music and taking the framework of music and applying comedy to it.
Nice. I hear you talking so passionately about music and comedy also, but you seem very passionate about music. And I think I read that Metalocalypse, when that was created, Metalocalypse was a kind of a response to the state of rock and roll at the time. And so, what was your mindset about rock and roll and rock music at the time? And, what is your mind state about rock music right now?
Well, it depends what genre you're really talking about, because something that was happening in the early 2000s was there's a huge resurgence of heavy metal. And as I was kind of falling back in love with my guitar, because I was in this comedy world, but I was also thinking about my guitar all the time. Like, when am I going to use it for something really cool? And because it's just sitting there, and I'm falling back in love with it because of heavy metal, because people are really playing their instruments again in the early 2000s. And I was just going to shows, see extreme metal bands like Cannibal Corpse, or bands like Arch Enemy, or bands like Nile, or all kinds of crazy really heavy bands. And I have a great deal of appreciation for it, but it made me want to play my guitar again. And that's all you're looking for, is an excuse to play your guitar and something that drives you. And Home Movies was finished. Home Movies was a series that was a delight to be a part of. It was such a cool crew with great cast members that are friends of mine that I hang out with still. And I really enjoyed that time, but it was time to do something very different. And I didn't want to do the exact same thing as Home Movies, because the thing about Home Movies is that people kind of discovered it later, but while we were making it, it wasn't performing that well. Mm-hmm. So it made me think it's not the thing for me to go back to into a world of Home Movies. Plus, I just did it, and I really liked where we left it. So I thought, I'm going to do something else, and it's going to be completely different, because it's really fun to like playing music, to play jazz one day and then to play heavy metal the next day. It's just a different kind of, it's just a different setup, but it's the same notes, and it's the same kind of, it's on the fretboard. It's all sitting there looking at you. That's really, and that's how I felt about it a lot. Because I feel like it wasn't made by the same person who made Home Movies.
No, it wasn't made by the same person. In fact, I think the person, and sorry if I'm bringing up a sore point here, one of the producers of Metalocalypse just passed away not too long ago, right?
That was John Schnepp. He was an important part in the making of the show. He designed the characters. He designed the 5 characters that you see there, the band, and he was a really wonderful collaborator, and just a crazy, intense spirit inside of the workplace, and but a big voice and a creative guy. So it's a shame he left us so soon.
I'm sorry about that, but I mean, the legacy of this show is amazing. I've seen the show so many times. I must have seen it in reruns about 5 times over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because it plays on Adult Swim all the time, man. Especially back in the day, and they just start replaying it again. And I've seen so many episodes over and over again. So with me saying that, did you did you anticipate the success of this show being this successful?
No, I mean, all you can do is hope that you find an audience, and with your show, right? It's something that you try to bet on when you make a show. Home Movies was it felt like it was always for us, but Metalocalypse, like the makers of Home Movies, it felt like it was kind of our thing for us, and nobody really saw it when we were making it until afterwards. But Metalocalypse, I knew that there were other people like me out there, like kids who are discovering, or kids who hadn't discovered heavy metal yet, and would find it as empowering as I did. And I also think there's a whole community of heavy metal people who really like the music and just don't get spoken to, as an audience. So I thought maybe this is the opportunity to start a conversation with the heavy metal audience, and they arrived, which was really cool. And even though the show hadn't been on for a long time, they were still watching, and our numbers were really strong. So that's why we're here today, because I guess the fans stayed loyal to the show and kept on watching it.
I got my reasons, but I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah.
Because I like all music, including heavy metal, but I'm sure I'm not as much of a metalhead as you are, and as much as some of the people watching this show. And I do like heavy metal, but but so what do you think the appeal is for people who might not be into metal as much as you are, who watch the show?
Well, we have one of the things that I think, Home Movies and the parallel is that we have characters, that can stand on their own despite the storyline or even the kind of genre. The idea is to have characters that you understand, and that's the main thing. It's TV. So my philosophy on TV is that good, bad, or indifferent, it's a friendship surrogate, where you show up every week and you hang out with some of your friends. That's why the show Friends is called Friends. But I think that's what it is. I think people look to some of this stuff as that's why we read stories and continue long novels and all that stuff, because I think people like to come to get to know some people that are funny, interesting, odd, in our case, idiots who are wrong about everything. But that's part of comedy as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Having wrong idiots be wrong for a very long time until you get to the finale and you have an opportunity to land their arc in a different way.
Yeah, I think you are 100% correct about characters. I mean, I think because I think one of the things that really works about this show is that you see it's about metal. It's very heavy metal, and then you see these characters, and they a lot of them are they don't fit this image of metal that we think of. A lot of them are goofballs, man. Some of them are just downright adorable. It's just it's the antithesis of what we think of with this. Also, you create these side characters like Roxo the Clown, which is one of my favorites. Who's very quotable. So I think you're right about that. But one of the things about this show also that I want to mention. So I read that, and I kind of figured that this might be partly the case, that Metalocalypse is heavily inspired by the band Metallica, and also the documentary that they were in when they were in therapy. And so, I can see that, but unlike a Metallica show that people go to, half the crowd doesn't die. And
right.
And so
it's true. It's true. Yeah. In real life, people live. Yeah. Well, Metallica. Okay, so our show is about the biggest entertainment act on Earth, and they're the 7th largest economy, and they're bigger than what we knew as the Beatles. They're so big that if they don't put out a record, it affects the actual. It affects the world. Money stops flowing. It's a tragedy. And in real life, Metallica is the biggest metal band on Earth, and Metallica is one of my favorite bands of all time. Some Kind of Monster was a documentary that opened up my eyes to reveal to me something that I already knew, is that they're human beings. They're actually people who live and breathe and eat, and are vulnerable and are creative and intelligent and all that stuff. So that just helped. That was inspiring to me to see all that, and it would send me on a journey of discovering as much as I could about all the bands that I've kind of, as much as I could about any band that I could learn about. So I would go and watch other documentaries like the Aerosmith Pump documentary, which I think is really great. It's about an hour long, but it's about the making of the album, with Janie's Got a Gun and all that stuff. But that was really eye-opening too. And it was just deep research, And if you're making a show about heavy metal or about bands, about creative relationships, it's really good to do as much research as you can. And you're talking about, in our show, people get mutilated at concerts and things like that. But what it is an exaggeration of things that have happened in the past. There have been disasters at concerts throughout the years, from Stones at Altamont to stages falling apart in England to, the Who, people get hurt. So we're doing a major example, and this whole show is a kind of a worked funhouse mirror of the things that we were seeing in rock and roll history, and the things that were kind of happening in the early 2000s on like television and stuff and celebrity culture. And this is a show about celebrity culture, but what if the biggest celebrities were an extreme metal band? First episode and everything, and that's kind of the trail that we followed until now.
Okay, because I was going to ask you that. First of all, it's great to hear about the inspiration, behind it and how much you really are inspired by Metallica and other bands. But I was going to ask you where did the idea come from for pretty much gruesomely killing half the audience in these shows, which I think that's one of the big selling points for me, how people die at these shows and they still love the experience. Like they're willing to die for this band, and I thought that was just a hilarious idea.
There's something strange that happens. I mean, this is a show that kind of starts out with this band as this kind of gigantic corporate entity, but the fans treat it more like a religion, And you see that with the Grateful Dead, where people just kind of follow like a messiah around the planet just to see them play and just to worship them. And that's kind of something that happens in heavy metal or rock and roll or pop music culture. How about the Taylor Swift thing that's going on? Yeah. If that isn't a movement, then I mean, it really does happen. So we're just taking something that kind of exists and exaggerating it. And if people, in fact, we thought there'd be lots of death and destruction. There's maybe a curse on this, over this band. And we invented this idea that in order to even watch a Dethklok concert on the show, fans would have to sign a pain waiver to get in, basically making the band legally, kind of leaving them legally unscathed from any kind of destructive, mutilation that could possibly happen. So those are all the things that we're having. Again, it's extreme. So we were also I was thinking, like, in development of the show, I really loved Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I still love it. I think it's one of the great comedy movies of all time. And there's so much violence in that movie, but it's so over the top and it's so unbelievable. Like the knight that's getting his arms and legs hacked off with big arterial sprays, but it looks kind of silly and he's kind of floating in the air here and there. That made me laugh so much when I was a kid, and it still makes me laugh now. But that was the kind of idea behind it. So we wanted to kind of coin a phrase, extreme slapstick. And that's kind of what this show embodied, extreme slapstick.
I never thought of it like that, but I can see that. I can definitely see that. I mean, I shouldn't laugh as hard as I do, but that's one of the biggest draws to me. Just watching these people die, and willingly so. But
it sounds like you love to watch people die. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, I do.
You're owning it. Okay,
I own it, but as long as it's funny, if you're just dying, it's not funny, then it's a disappointment.
Yeah.
You meant your voice. So when I was I'm just thinking about this now. So listening to you as Brendon Small on Home Movies, at the time when I was listening to this, I just assumed that was just your voice, but you have a much deeper voice right now.
Yes.
So was that voice created for that character?
Yeah, it was an experiment that, particularly in the earlier seasons, we put a pitch shifter on the voice because the character's supposed to be around 8-9 years old on the show.
Yeah.
And so I would do more of a character, do an exaggerated version and kind of build a little bit more. I'd kind of lean into my more Midwestern kind of accent that I grew up with. And we'd pitch it up, and then slowly but surely we'd kind of like start pitching it back down, and I would kind of just naturally do the voice in a higher register just to make it feel a little bit more natural. But that was the idea. Just because he's meant to be a kid and he's not supposed to have a lower voice like an adult.
Okay, so that's what I figured. After listening to you, I said they must have shifted your voice because I can now because I've been listening hard. I mean, I've been it's been great hearing the conversation. I've been fascinated by your answers, but I'm not gonna lie. Every now and then, I'm trying to find some home movieisms in your voice every now and then, which I can hear kind of now.
I mean, that's like I said, that was the character. So I mean, it's funny. It is my natural speaking voice, but an exaggerated version of it, and a little bit more faster talking, a little bit more kind of staccato, little tiny rhythms and stuff like that. Again, thinking about music and stuff, offbeat stuff because he's kind of an offbeat character, things like that. So
switching over to your tour now, as we said, your tour kicks off on August 30th this month.
Yeah.
So you're touring right now with a band called Baby Metal. I think, are they from Japan?
Yeah, they're from Japan. Yeah, that's them. They it's a really unique show, and we're excited to be touring with them because we have a really unique show too. And I think putting our two shows next to each other, the music is extreme, but what we're doing on stage is not like anything else you'll see at an extreme metal show. They have choreography, they have these singers and who dance, and they have a really intense band behind them with visuals and everything. And our show is so they are, yeah. And then our show is basically a gigantic movie theater size screen, and we played a picture, and what you get is this really nice synergy between band and visual, and it really is like it's really like being in a theme park ride. That's what our show is. The Dethklok Live is almost like being at Universal Studios, like and going into the Terminator 2 ride or something. That was how it was meant to feel. So it's a combination of just extreme music with a band that's really just so tight and so good. I'm talking about Gene Hoglan, Brian Beller, Neely Brosh, and then just these visuals. And we're kind of more of a pit band where the ballet is behind us, but we kind of brought the pit band on stage. And you're not really we're not the stars of the show, the screen is. And so when we do the show, the audience is looking beyond us up at the screen. And there's comedy, and there's music, and there's a whole new record that we're touring, and old stuff that we're touring, and we're celebrating the entire kind of legacy of Metalocalypse on this tour.
I want to give an example of the two bands that are playing the tour. Of course, you and the band you're touring with, Baby Metal. This is Baby Metal, and Baby Metal, I guess they're called Baby Metal because they're young girls, right? And they play metal. But here's an example of some of their music. There's sort of a pop element to it too, and here's your performance at your show. So it's there's a similarity and there's also a difference between the two bands. So how did you go about choosing Baby Metal to tour with you?
I mean, everything that I just said is the reason that we chose them, because they're theatrical. We have a live visual component. It's something that you will not get at any other show. I don't think you're gonna get at any other kind of like genre. And I think we sound different, which makes it more interesting. I think you don't want to go to a show where every band sounds like they're doing the exact same thing. I think I'm sure, like you say, you listen to all kinds of different music. So do I. I mean, my iPod Shuffle will take me from like Latin jazz to death metal to Aaron Copland to whatever it is. But I think that contrast is what makes each band stand out stronger. So that's another reason to be on tour with them.
Nice. No, very nice. I actually really appreciate that. It's cool getting, again, similarities and differences, but I think it's kind of cool to get people exposed to different bands too. Do you find that that's the case when you tour with somebody like Baby Metal? You find you converting fans over to them also?
Yeah, I mean, I love what they're doing. I think it's also really cool that there's kind of one person kind of putting all the stuff together, and it's kind of similar to what we do, though our band is a little bit more collaborative, I think. And but also, I think what's going on in Japanese culture is always fascinating to me, and always inspiring to me. From Miyazaki to Korey, all that stuff is exciting.
So, I think you froze for a little bit too. I don't know if you're still here.
Sorry about that.
No, it's a good spot that you froze too. You look like you're really enjoying this moment. There, I think you're coming back now.
I can't, sorry, bad internet. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. I can't tell because I'm not looking at the screen because I don't want to look at my face anymore.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry about that. That's just for the sake of again. We do.
I understand. It's yeah. So I don't know if I'm frozen or not. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, it's good. You're back now. So over the you've done this show, your show over the years.
Yeah.
And like I said, you've been touring for a while, and you talk about how there's a certain amount of theatrics to your show. You kind of put the visuals ahead of the band itself to create this experience for the audience. So doing such a elaborate sort of show like this, how has the tour changed over the years?
We have not. I don't tour that often, so this is the first tour I've done in about a decade. So I don't tour that often, and this tour is, like I said earlier, a celebration of the legacy of Metalocalypse. So we're going to have a bunch of stuff from every single record, and we're going to add some stuff from the new record. And but it's an animated show, so that means when you decide to put in new animation, you have to find a budget from somewhere. It's not like just playing a song and rehearsing it. You have to build a whole component to it. So it's not always easy. It's difficult to make it cost effective. And so that's part of the challenge of going out on tour. And fortunately, we have a bunch of stuff we haven't done in a very long time. So this is almost somewhere between here we are, bring out a new record, a new movie, and we're also celebrating the past. So that's what the show is.
I didn't realize that you were making animation specifically for the show. I didn't know that. I thought you were taking images from the show itself.
You mean the cartoon show?
Sorry,
right?
Yeah, the cartoon. Yeah, I thought. Yeah, I thought you.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were doing
TV
animation
show,
specifically for the concert or the tour. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean that's what we've always done.
I haven't been to a show yet, and I've been saying for years I'm going to make it out. Now that you're in Texas, I'll probably try to make the show over in Houston, man.
Well, if I can't convince you to come to the show, I don't know how I'm going to convince anybody else to come to the show. So now you have to come to the show. You have to come because, hey, I'll say this also. This is the old get it while it's hot tour. I don't know how many times we're going to do this. So we're going to go and do this one time. We don't have anything else scheduled beyond this. But this is like this is the Dethklok tour. So if you want to see us, this is the time to see us. And our tickets are selling quickly. So you got to get in there.
So I better hurry up. There you go, people.
You better hurry up.
I've been called out in front of everyone right now. So
yeah,
now I
I'm
have to
calling
go
you
see
out.
the show.
Yeah, exactly. I better see you there. Yeah.
There you go, people. If I'm not here doing a show, I'm over watching Dethklok, man, because I've been pretty much pumped out to do it. So I got to be there.
Now you got to do it. Thinking about seeing it. You got to see it. You know what? Here's the great thing about a heavy metal show. If you've never been to a heavy metal show before, this is a great opportunity because because I think people are afraid of heavy metal, and they shouldn't be, because it really is a lot more inclusive than you think it would be. And all you have to do to join the club is to buy a ticket, and you're just in the club, and it's that cool. And if you show up at any show, from Metallica to Slayer to Anthrax to Black Sabbath to whatever it is, you're in the club. If you show up, you're in the club.
You know what? You were right, and that goes for all kind of metal, man. I was at a new metal festival a couple of months ago in Las Vegas. This thing called the Sick New World Festival, and I've never been invited more politely to do violence. There was like, you know what I'm saying? It's like a guy was standing next to me, and we're in the hot sun. He's like, "Hey, bro, we're gonna start moshing. Do you want to join us?" When they ask so politely, you have to do it. So,
that is a very polite way to ask. Yeah. Well, that is, like, some people think that, if, I don't want to go and get roughed up at a show or anything like that. But the people that don't want to mosh at a heavy metal show don't have to. No one's being forced to. They're being politely asked. And if somebody falls down, the whole group picks them up and brings them back in, because it's just meant to be fun. And that's the great thing about heavy metal, is that it's, I think a lot of people have a lot of, a lot of people don't have a way to kind of to get the aggression out in a way that is healthy, and heavy metal gives you a great outlet for that, and it also gives you a feeling of empowerment, and a lot of people use it almost like therapy. That's what heavy metal really is for a lot of people, and it's also they're darker themes and darker topics and things like that, but that's also really exciting. Like, scary movies are really exciting, stuff like that. So that's why I'm always a proponent for getting people into heavy metal. If I hadn't discovered it, I don't know that I would be me. If I at that crucial age, being a teenager, discovering this stuff, it gave me something that was mine. It helped me sculpt out my personality. And I really needed that at the time, and I still need it, as an adult. But those are the benefits of heavy metal, adding that into your life.
Yeah. No, that's that brings up an interesting question here, because I've read several places that now you are revered as a metal legend, as I said at the beginning of the interview, and first of all, how do you feel about that? And second, how much do you feel Metalocalypse played into your musical career right now? What would you have done differently if Metalocalypse hadn't happened?
First of all, I don't know how people see me. That's up to them. My world is very small. I'm an indoor person. I have a group of friends that don't revere me in any way whatsoever. I have a dog that doesn't revere me, so I don't know what that is. I go on stage every once in a while, and that's where it gets really exciting, because I've got to show. I get it. If I'm performing, that's the time to applaud. But outside of that, I am not interested in being revered. But secondly, if Metalocalypse hadn't happened, I don't think I would be known for music at all. I think I would have a guitar, and I would play it, and I would still have this personal relationship with my guitar and music that I still have outside of Metalocalypse. I'm always trying to get better as a guitar player. I'm always trying to work on just understanding the instrument better, furthering the journey, and learning other things, jazz, being a better improviser, all kinds of stuff, just wrapping my mind around modes, melodic minor modes, and all that. Mm-hmm. Stuff. So I get really excited about it. And my relationship with music would just intact and just as strong if I didn't have anything. It's really, I love music that much that I didn't need the career for me to still be in love with it.
Okay, so
but I'm glad it makes people happy, and I'm glad it really touches people, and from the person that makes it to the person that receives it, those are just two different kinds of relationships. I know that I have my musical heroes that really that have really changed my life, and whenever I get to meet them, I try to tell them that, and maybe they understand that, and maybe they don't. But like I said, for me, I'm just a guy waiting for the bus, basically. So you don't have to
Well,
hear me. I'm just some dude. Yeah.
You're very humble too, and that's very cool. But a lot of people do look up to you as a very talented musician, and I think you become a hero to a lot of people. I'm going to ask you something that you probably get asked a lot, and I'm going to ask this at the risk of asking you something that you probably are getting sick of hearing. But I want to know anyway. Especially looking at your stage show. I'm looking at the setup here. I'm looking at how you have animation in the background, the band is in the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you been compared to Gorillaz? I've been to a Gorillaz.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead. Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, I hear you. Just so people know, Gorillaz is a virtual band.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Gorillaz is a virtual band where they use animated characters as their front. And I've been to several shows where they have the same setup as you. So I imagine you get Gorillaz comparisons a lot, being that you have an animated band as your front too.
I think that is a worthwhile comparison, but they did it first, and they are the inspiration to our live show. So let me take you back a few years, back to when we were first doing the first season of the show. I thought, okay, I've got this show. I'm going to challenge myself to write a script and to write original music for every episode. And if by the end of this, these first 20 episodes, if it's doing well, maybe I can take these songs from these episodes, elongate them, and put them all on a record. And if I put a record out, then would I be able to tour? How could I tour? Well, what did the Gorillaz do? And then I look at the Gorillaz, and at the time they were playing behind a scrim.
Yeah.
And I thought, and you could see their shadows. And I thought, okay, well, only by the time I had even thought of that or doing it, they'd already been doing that too. So I think they beat me to the punch and everything, and it was a really good idea on their part. So I have to say, the idea 100% came from the Gorillaz. I did not come up with that idea, but the idea for us was to do something that is, of course, a little bit more intense, and the music is more intense, and there's a little bit more of a comedy component to the whole thing. So that was the idea. But yeah, Gorillaz are intensely talented, as we all know, and the animation is gorgeous that they do. So I think they're an inspiration.
Nice. Yeah, I love Gorillaz, and I think that kind of is what drew me into being interested in what you do when you're touring, because I kind of love the whole thing of having the animated band be the center of attention, and the real band taking a kind of a small step back. I thought that's a great concept.
Yeah. Our joke is that we're not Dethklok. We sound exactly like Dethklok. We aren't the band Dethklok. The band Dethklok is a figment of our collective imagination. We're the Metalocalypse players. That's what we say.
Nice.
So that's exactly. So we're just like we're and that's the fun.
Nice.
Where I could both be on stage and also be in the shadows at the same time. Where I get to be a performer, but I'm not the center of attention. So that's what I need to get on stage.
Nice, very nice. We're about to wrap things up here, but just a couple of things before we go. I'm surprised to learn about the things that you've done. And I don't know for sure, but because I didn't, I'm just now learning this. But you played guitar on the cover of Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla. And you played with some musicians that I like very much. You played guitar for Flying Lotus, I think a couple of tracks, including
I did, yeah.
Turkey Dog Coma.
Yep, on You're Dead, Flying Lotus, and Thundercats on that record too. And I think Flying Lotus individually is a really just super cool and creative person, and just I think follows his creative spirit in a really magnificent way, and it's cool to see him directing, and it's cool to see him doing all this stuff. I really admire him, and Thundercat too. Thundercat, who does a voice in the movie, in the Army of the Doomstar movie, is ridiculously talented in an upsetting way. Just so talented and so. So irritatingly talented that I don't know what to do with him. He also, we know him as, this avant-garde kind of neo-soul kind of, but he was in Suicidal Tendencies first. He was in a really heavy metal band for a long time.
What? And Thundercat was in Suicidal Tendencies?
Yeah, see, nobody knows that, but I do. And I know that he loves heavy metal, and I know that he loves, and I love what he does, man. I have all his records, and I listen to him all the time. I think he's so talented. I love his voice. I love his playing. But, being on the Flying Lotus record and collaborating with him, whenever he calls, I'll drop everything I'm doing and work on something. But that makes me look very cool. And by the way, Godzilla King of Monsters, that's Bear McCreary who scored that. And I do a lot of work with Bear McCreary over the years. We did a 1 hour long rock opera special with a 50-piece orchestra, and Bear McCreary helped put that whole thing together. In fact, I used his whole team, Sparks and Shadows, to do the film score of the Army of the Doomstar soundtrack, where we got, an orchestra to play with us too, and I have synthesizers. It's a really cool score that comes out this week as well. And I'm really proud of that score, and it sounds very different than heavy metal. It's more of like a synthesizer and orchestra, and a feeling like a classic film score, like something like dark fantasy kind of stuff from the 80s. So all that stuff is really fun. Playing the Godzilla King of Monsters, playing that song. By the way, it's one of the coolest songs. Blue Oyster Cult is such a great band. It's such a great inspiration. But that is one of the coolest guitar riffs, and I think a lot of guitar players will agree with me that the Godzilla riff is one of the coolest riffs in the world. And basically, it was the Dethklok band, myself, Gene Hoglan, Brian Beller, and then Serge from System of a Down sang on it. And it's just so cool to have been involved in that. And just a little bit in that movie was really awesome.
I agree with you. That riff for Godzilla is amazing.
Yeah.
It is cool. It definitely is one of my favorites, man. So it's cool that you got to play that for the film. Musician, comedy. Now you're even directing. I think you directed this video for The Damn Things. We got a situation here.
Yeah.
You do so much, and now you're directing videos. Do you think that you'd ever want to direct a live action feature film?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of why. I mean, that's why this is such a great bonus to do this Metalocalypse finale as a feature. Don't get me wrong, but I really love movies, and so that's the take it from this point on is movie. I did one for Necrogoblicon, which is really crazy with this prosthetic goblin that was really cool. I did one for Galacticon, which is another project that I do called The Agenda, which is where I get to use practical effects and really cool stuff and play with lenses and move the camera around. It's so nice after being in animation for so long to get out of the house and get your hands dirty and get behind a camera. And that's just what I love, and that's what I study all the time. So that's what that's where I'll be pushing. I have ideas for scripts and stuff like that I'm going to be working on, even while I'm on this tour, I'm going to be kind of pushing for that to be the next thing.
Okay, so at some point we will see a Brendon Small directed movie, feature-length film at some point down the line.
Yeah, well, you already got one. It's called Army of the Doomstar, and then you'll see more, hopefully.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm speaking live action at this point, so.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah. Live action. Yeah, live action is like a treat after having to construct every single frame and every single moment and every single movement in animation. It's a very worthwhile but tedious process. As all this stuff is, guitar is a tedious process, but it yields really cool things.
Nice. Lastly, I don't know if this is something that I should bring up, but I'm going to do it anyway. Back in 2006, you posed for Playgirl. I didn't even know Playgirl still existed, man. back in,
if you're showing a picture, I can't see it. And if you are showing a picture, I apologize to anybody who's watching this. Yeah, that was a comedy issue.
Yeah,
I think the context may have gotten lost over the years, but that was a comedy issue. And it's really funny because it came out and there were no repercussions whatsoever. Somebody said, everything I do in comedy is usually some kind of a stupid dare, or you look back and you go, oh God, why did I do that? Why did I do that? And but at the same time, I was terrified when it came out that people would think I was serious or something, but it was a comedy issue. And so my mother finally called me and she said, I understand you're in Playgirl. And I was like, Mom, don't even, why do you bring this up? And she said, well, I bought the issue. And I was like, Mom, what kind of a weird thing is this? Why would you get an issue of your son mostly naked inside of something? And then she said, well, I didn't see it. She goes, I understand it was tasteful. And she says, I didn't look at it because I couldn't get past the first few pages of erections. So there's the only repercussion. It's still uncomfortable to this day.
Yeah, and
thank you. Hey, yeah.
I think people realize it is comedy, though. That's why I brought it up. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I thought we get a good laugh out of it because it is comedy. Everyone's aware.
Hey, I want to say thank you for taking an interest in all the stuff that I'm doing right now, and I hope to really see you at the show. I've got to go to rehearsal for this tour I'm about to do, and I don't want to be late and make the band wait for me. But I have to leave right now, and I just want to say thank you again for taking an interest, and it was really nice talking to you.
No, that was my last question anyway, so this ended at the right point. So again, well, thank you for taking the time, and I'm going to jump on getting tickets today for the show in Houston. Thank you so much for taking the time and doing this. I appreciate it.
In Houston, awesome. Thank you very much. All right, cool.
Talk to you later.
I'll see you.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
See ya. And there he goes. So I had some problems. Well, I don't know if it was me or on his end. I think the problem was on his end. The internet. You could hear it going in and out. So this is going to be somewhat edited by the time we put this up, which is a good thing that we didn't do this live. But still a lot of great answers in there. A lot of great stories. A lot of stuff that I learned, and I want to thank Brendon Small for being here. And I am going to try to make it to that show. I've been wanting to go to one of these shows for a while, and guy's so nice that I just want to go because he was just so cool anyway. But we have plenty more interviews like this coming up somewhere. We have a channel that we put them on, but I'm thinking about putting these in other places, so you'll see them somewhere. And we have a lot of them. You can go to Double Toasted Interviews and see the archive of interviews that we've done so far. And as I said, no telling. You might be able to see them somewhere else because I'm just going to start expanding these out a little bit more. But you should go check them out, man. Brendon Small was cool, and I've been very lucky to talk to a lot of people that were also just as nice and cool as he is. And speaking of nice and cool, thank you for supporting what we do and watching this and everything else. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much. I want to thank our guest again, Brendon Small, for being here. And we'll see you on the next one, whenever that is. Until then, you know the deal. kcoolmans@gmail.com. That is KCOOLMANZ@gmail.com. Email us with any kind of questions, comments, compliments, insults, input, and/or advice. Hit us up on those social medias. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Patreon, anything else that we have out there. You can just put in Double Toasted, and it'll take you right to it. Also, if you find yourself here in Austin, Texas, I'd like for you to do me a favor, because I know you'll want to come hang with us. But before you do that, email us first, kcoolmans@gmail.com. I told you before, I'll tell you one more time, KCOOLMANZ@gmail.com. We want you to email us because when you get here, we want to make sure that we are able to spend as much quality time with you as possible. Clear our schedules ahead of time for you. And so whatever your plans are for Austin, whether you are moving here or just passing through, let us know, and we will do our best to hang out with you. All right, everybody. Again, I want to thank our guest today, but I want to thank you, because without you, this would not have been possible. Or anything we do wouldn't be possible. So, until the next time, good night, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening to or whenever you're watching this, goodbye and stay toasty.